Hi, my name is Sara. Welcome to the launch of ComTank. We're really excited about that. Welcome to coming at 7:30 in the morning. We know that it's early. But I'm a personal development junkie. And so one of the books that I was just reading is something called The Millionaire Map. And it was talking about characteristics of people that generate a lot of wealth. Not necessarily people that have a lot of wealth and do it simply because they're looking for money, but people that develop a rich lifestyle, that they have the financial resources to make whatever choices they want, and most of them are entrepreneurs. And it goes through a whole list of classifications, and it says that one of the things is that people that have that rich lifestyle, they read more than other people, you know. They read more books on personal development, on growing their business. They really look at how do I grow as a person. And one of the other characteristics is that they're diligent. They're diligent. And if you're looking for a decision maker, and Tom would probably know this because he's in the financial arena, that a great way to reach a decision maker is contact them early in the morning, and or 5:30, 6 o'clock at night. That somebody who's a decision maker and has a successful life, they cannot work when they choose to, but they tend to arrive at work earlier if they need to. So if you want to reach somebody at the ComCenter early, send Bernie an email because he's going to get back with you. He gets up and he has a plan and he knows what he's going to do for the day. So because we know that although this is open to everybody in ComCenters, then not everybody's going to come because it's too early, but not everybody is going to be diligent to purposely grow their business. So in the launch of today, what we're going to talk about is, what are you doing? What are you going to do? And in my quest for personal development, the first page of your handout gives you the three truths that I live by. And I've been talking about these for several years. And I remember when my mom looked at it, she goes, "Did you learn these because of me?" And I'm like, no. The first one is, my life changes when I do. My business changes when I do. My relationship changes when I do. If I don't apply structure to my time, someone or something else will. One of the other reasons we do this early is because by the end of the day, there are so many things that will happen in your business. There are so many things that will come up that you'll need to deal with, that to put this in is you get it in, get it done, and by 9 o'clock you'll be out of here on your way to grow your business and make the changes and do the things that you need to do. The only thing I have control over are my own personal choices. As much as we think sometimes that I can make James do something. I remember, I don't know if everybody has children, but it doesn't matter how old or how young your child is, you can't make anybody do anything. Now, you can control the circumstances around that person to encourage them to do other things. But you can't make anybody do anything. And when I began to accept that in my business and in my personal life, because for me they're very, very close. And as small business people, it all kind of works together. When I accept that change starts with me, and how I choose to do that, then will ripple out. But as a leader in my company, when something happens, as a leader in a community of a lot of people, when something doesn't go right, the first person I look at is, what did I do? What did I do? If this person wasn't able to deliver this to me, I say, did I communicate clearly with them? Did I give them the information that they need to be able to accomplish this? So as you go through these classes, I hope that you keep these in mind. My old business cards, and as we're getting ready to make some transitions, my old business cards had these truths on the back. And I would give them to people and say, here, whether you ever work with me or not, put this in your wallet. There is at the Honda dealer in Sarasota, my business card is up on the wall with the 3 truths showing. That how do I take control? How do I take responsibility? So the only thing I have control over are my own personal choices. And then the bonus that I think is, and this means a couple of things, the only interest rate I have control over is my own. How valuable am I? How valuable am I? We live in a world that thinks that you get paid by the hour. And we do get paid by the hour to a certain extent, okay? Because an hour is a segment of measure, okay? And for most of my clients, I tell them this story that's if you had a nuclear power plant, and your name again is? Renee. Renee, if you had a nuclear power plant and it was going to blow up, and you needed somebody to make sure it didn't blow up, and I could solve that in 4 minutes, or I can solve that in 2 weeks. What are you going to pay me more for?
The 4 minutes.
The 4 minutes. Because my value isn't about how long it takes me to do that. My value is based on what I can bring to the table. So the more valuable I become, the more value that I create for my clients, the more I'm worth. Now, that value, the world wants to tell us how much is it per hour? How much is it per hour? Well, you have different hours that you're going to provide different value. And have you ever been driving in your car and you were working on a client's project? And this is how it happens for me. I immerse myself in all this stuff, right? And then I'm driving in my car, or I actually enjoy doing things like ironing. Okay, because then I can be productive. But my brain is able to process that information. I have the ability, I don't have to think so hard. I just allow my brain to work and have a piece there, and I take notes. Somebody would say, that's not really valuable. But that time and the solutions that come out. So the bigger the problems you solve, if you can keep nuclear power plants from blowing up in 4 minutes, nobody cares about how long it takes. So one of the things we're going to look at in your business is how can you create more value for the people you work with, so that your value isn't just based on how many hours you put in a day. So the first thing we're going to talk about, and I'm going to explain a couple of things, tell you a couple of stories, and then we're going to kind of break off and talk among ourselves, come up with some answers and share. Because the value of ComTank isn't about the fact that we found somebody to stand up front and talk to you. The value in ComTank is that there are almost 200 businesses, or a little over 200 businesses, that the ComCenter serves through virtual clients, through clients that have offices here. And at the kickoff parties last week, did you meet some people that you didn't know before? Mm-hmm. There's like some really cool talent here. And so our goal is that the solutions and answers that we need very often are in the people around us. And sometimes we think that I just have to go, if I go to the financial seminar, or I go to the beauty seminar, or I go to another SEO workshop because my job is in SEO, that my answer is there. The truth is that very often the answers are right in front of us, and somebody else in another industry does this, and it just happens for them, and you go, oh my gosh, if I could take this piece from over here and put that in my business, wow, that would work. And it might even be a better solution than some of the other people in my industry are using. So the first thing we're going to talk about is why. Why, and the difference between a job and a business. So I have a client who came into me this last year, and when this client started her company, she had been a Ringling graduate, and she'd been working for another company, and she realized that her boss was paying her a certain amount, and her boss was billing the clients 3 to 4 times what she was paying her. She said, wow, that's a lot of money. So she decided to freelance on her own. Started working from her coffee table at the house, got married, and she did this because she enjoyed it, and she had this flexibility, got married, had a child, and 13 years later, had never had to market her company. All her business had come from word of mouth. She had clients that would wait 6 months for her to start a project. And all she did was work hour after hour after hour after hour. And it wasn't fun anymore. I mean, she really just started freelancing off her coffee table. And now she's got all this work that's coming in, and part of that flexibility that she loved when she first started, she didn't have anymore. And she came in, I had met her a couple years before, and for about 2 years her husband said, you need to go talk to Sara. And she came in and she's like, I just want to give it to somebody else. I don't know, maybe that never happened to you. That you just felt like you couldn't work fast enough and you were overwhelmed. So we had this conversation, and she really did not start a business. She really, when she sat down at her coffee table, she started a job. And now she's building a business after 13 years. And I convinced her not to walk away. I believe that one of the most intimate things that you will ever do is to build a business outside of the family and the relationships you have with the people that you care about. And just like, who would buy a house? I don't know. Who would buy a house, put a lot of money in, and if you have a lot of equity in your house, and just walk away and leave it there? Would that make sense? No. Mm-mm. When you build a business, you're building equity in that. You've made an investment. And so what we decided to look at with this client is the 13 years of investment that she put into that, and how to take that job that she had built and turn it into a business. Because a job is something that is hour by hour. And if you're not there, it doesn't produce anything. You can't go on vacation, because if you go on vacation, there's no money. If you don't show up, there's no money. If you have to go to do jury duty for the day, the phone calls come in, the stuff happens, you get back, and there's a bigger pile because the buck stops there. That's a job. The only difference between that job and working for somebody else is that not only do you have to do the work, but you're responsible for the marketing, and you're responsible for the taxes, and the taxes for your business and your personal ones. You're responsible for the whole gamut of everything that goes with it. So, when you started this, did you plan on building a job or a business? And why? So what we're going to do is we're going to, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, is we're going to kind of go into groups over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Great. So we have 5 over here, 5 over here, and 4 over here. Okay? And I'm going to ask you guys to answer 3 questions. When you started your business, why? Did you just want some more freedom? Did you, I just don't want to work for somebody else. I want to set my own hours. I don't want to get up to be at meetings at 7:30 in the morning. Why did you start this? Okay. And do you feel like you've really built a job or built a business? Okay. So we're going to take 5 minutes. All right. And at the end of that, I'm going to ask one person from each group to kind of share what were the top things that you came up with at your groups. So was that a pretty interesting discussion?
Yes.
When everybody came in today, your concept of whether you were in a job or a business, how you came in, do you still have the same perceptions that you all had when you walked in? Is anybody's, you don't have to say what it is, but is anybody's perception somewhat different? Okay. Okay. So in your groups, so we could have the spokesperson from this group. If you could, what did you come up with? What were the top things that happened in your group that you went, oh my gosh?
We learned what people did.
You learned what people did. Did everybody in your group? Had they distinguished before whether they were in a job or a business?
Yes.
They had. Mm-hmm. And how did they feel about that? Were there changes that they wanted to make, or did they want to? Was there anybody said, "Wow, I may be in a job, but is there a way I can do something different?" Did you get kind of what kind of feeling did you get overall? Was it mostly just a learning where we're at?
What would you say?
Yeah, we just went a little bit.
Mostly, okay. In your group back there, what did you guys find out? What I love about what you said, and anybody who was in here who said, wow, I really have a job. I don't really have control over how I get paid. I want to challenge you and say, the only way you have a job is if you think of it. That was brilliant. Your first name again is Troy. Okay. And the difference when you read about people that have achieved some really big things is that even when they work for somebody else, so somebody else writes the check, they approach it as if it's their company. They approach it as if it's their company, bringing value to that. So I don't know. One of the things I used to ask myself is, if I were the owner of this, would I hire me? Would I hire me? Am I the CEO of my own life? And how can I take control? How can I be more valuable? So I love that, because how you approach it, am I just getting paid for the time I put in now? Or am I creating a value that's bigger? And maybe this is technically a job, but is this what you will do for the rest of your life? Or do you have other aspirations? And if so, how can this time and your approach and what you're learning prepare you for that? I love this client boss thing. So what he brings to the table is the desire to really have value and produce value in someone's life. And so, have you ever worked with somebody who was in charge, who you felt that dictated what happened, that you felt didn't allow you to bring the most value to your clients? Yeah. And was that frustrating? So I think that's an exciting thing here. This other part about lifestyle and goals. Wanting to be able to choose, and this ties back into your flexibility. How does this business interact with how I want to live, and having goals? So one of the things, I'm going to share with you a little diagram that we put together this last year. Stan and I actually worked together in 2 different companies, and we've been talking. I teach on early stage funding in your startup. I speak to entrepreneurs at various stages of business development, and we're researching all the tools and the characteristics, and so this is one of the things we came up with. Actually, maybe I can draw it straight. For some reason, the board does not have spell check, so I actually spell fairly well, but for some reason, I don't know, when you're standing in front of a group, so please excuse my spelling errors here. Okay. There are certain things that have a limit on them. And as entrepreneurs, our goal is to leverage those things that have a limit. Now, in doing some research for some talks that we were preparing for, not only did we look at what are the characteristics of an entrepreneur, but Stan spent a couple hours with Bernie, because his understanding of space and virtual services and how to allow people to scale, and there's some terms in technology that they use with bandwidth and that Bernie has implemented that are absolutely brilliant. So Stan spent a couple hours with Bernie. He went around interviewing people. We were reviewing all these tools. And he had probably 20 pages of notes. I'm like, you can't deliver that in 45 minutes. So we're like, how do we give people a way to measure, to look at the tools that you have and to make decisions? So one of the things that I'm pretty picky about, and you guys expressed it yourself, is the things that are finite. You only have so much time, so much energy, and so much attention. Okay? A lot of people want to manage time. I have to tell you, time is. Time is going to go on whether you're good at it or not. And there's only 24 hours in a day. Everybody in this room has the exact same amount of time. It is an equalizer. You cannot manage time. You can only manage the activities and the things you do with the time that you have. But time will go on. Now the thing is, I can get really good at packing a lot of activities into that time. Okay? My clients require me to be creative. They want me to be brilliant. They want me to come up with great solutions. So there's a lot of IP or intellectual property that goes into the time that I spend with my clients. So I can fit 8 to 10 clients in a day. Do you want to be number 8, 9, or 10? No. So although I have the time, by the end of the day, what I do takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of creativity. There's only so much that I have. And then the other part is attention. There's a whole movement talking about fractured attention. We live in a world where we're bombarded with messages. And there's another technology platform that you need to be on, and you need to do this, and you need to do that. One of my favorite movies, and it's old. Has anybody seen The Gods Must Be Crazy? Oh my gosh, go Google it or Bing it. And there's some video clips on it. And what it's about is it's about this place, I believe it's in South Africa. And you see how technology has impacted this advanced civilization, and they have the alarm clocks and the cars and all the different things and the busy traffic, and they get to work and everybody goes to their cubicle, and this is advanced civilization. And then in juxtaposition, you see, not that far away, these little African bushmen. And the sun gets up and they go, and everything that they have is completely, they're equal. Because everything they have comes from their surroundings. They live paced according to the day. And now, of course, in this place over here, they're very much more advanced, and we would love to impose this on everybody because look at all the solutions we have, right? And in contrast to these poor little bushmen who, they're not wearing complete clothing with suits and ties like we are. So you have these two different things. And what happens is this airplane goes over, he's flying low, and he throws a Coke bottle out the window. And this bushman's going along, and he finds this bottle. And it's hard. It's hard. And the light shines through it different. And all of a sudden, there is introduced into this society of equality this game changer. Because now this Coke bottle can be used to crush up grain. And it can be used to roll and make decorations on things. And everybody wants it. And so you have to see what happens, because sometimes that's where we are. We're bombarded with so many messages, and now now it's like there's videos on Vine and there's videos on YouTube, and maybe you still have a MySpace thing and you have to do Twitter. There's hundreds and hundreds of social media platforms. And then there's tools to manage your team, whether it's Office 365 or Asana or Teambox or whatever. And then you know you have to be on Facebook because everybody's business must be on Facebook. And LinkedIn, and are you doing email blasts? And there's constant. Do you ever feel overwhelmed? Mm-hmm. And some of you in this room are supposed to be experts at this stuff. There is no expert because it's changing so fast. There's only so much attention that you have. And everybody's vying for it. So what do you need to do? Because this is limited. And then on the other side, as entrepreneurs, you need to maximize results. With all this stuff happening, you need to be able to deliver the best to your clients, the best to the people that you work with. Big one. Optimize cash flow. I find most of the times that my clients have way too many tools that they bought. They're spending $30 a month on this, and don't you love the subscription model? Great way, because unless you purposely call and cancel, I love these things. You sign up for free the first month, and you don't think anything about it. And then it just hits your card every month. Most clients have way too many tools, and they don't fully utilize any of them. And so that $10 or that $30 or that this here, that adds up. And then you have all these tools and all these things that you're obligated to use to try to deliver and produce value. And sometimes you're so busy running around like a hamster trying to produce that when do you actually get time to service your clients? Or to do what's called fulfillment of the contracts that you've made. So optimize cash flow. You know, and if you're working in a job where you haven't figured out how to transfer that so that it's only about the time that you show up, that's that client that came in after 13 years with all these tools and all this stuff and all this pressure. And she just wanted to escape. Maximize, optimize cash flow. Let me put this one in a different color because stay flexible. This is huge. Being able to have a choice. Being able to say, if I came in at 7:30 today, I'm going to be done at 5. Or my kid has a field trip. Last year, my daughter had a field trip, and it was on her birthday. I just blocked off. I took the day off. Actually, that's incorrect. I love texting. I think I probably texted with Beverly some. You know, she asked me some questions. I answered some questions. I did some communication through phone stuff. But otherwise, I hung out with my kid on her birthday at a field trip. And I took cookies, so everybody on the field trip had special cookies. And it was this whole wonderful day. And I got big-time brownie points as a mom. You know, I have the ability to do that because I choose to do that. So staying flexible is really important. And my client that came in earlier this year, she had no flexibility. It was all she could do to get up every day and finish at the end of the day and work. And she had clients that would wait for 6 months. That means that's good, isn't it? But she felt she wasn't serving people the way she wanted to because she didn't want them to wait that long. Then the other thing, how do I build a team? So as Stan and I were working on this, our goal was to come up with something that would help our entrepreneurs look at the tools and the activities and be able to say, how can I get this? Okay, if somebody tells me I have to be on Facebook, is that going to help me maximize my results? Are my clients, are my prospects actually on Facebook? So I will tell you that personally, I think that people should be on Facebook for a variety of reasons of maintaining contact in a fractured world. But do I believe that everybody's business should have a Facebook page? Not necessarily. So I know that there's some people who don't believe that. I don't really care. I'll tell you, I don't believe that everybody needs to do that. I don't believe that you need to do anything. I don't believe that you need to be digital. I believe you need to look at how you work and what works for you and what your goals and objectives are for your business. I have a friend who actually, she's the executive director of Realize Bradenton. She is brilliant and manages all kinds of events. She's got an incredible artistic background. She juggles more balls and accomplishes more than most people ever will. And I was working out of the Manatee Chamber of Commerce, an office up there, because I had a bunch of meetings that day. And she came in during I had about an hour and a half, and so I was working on a project, and she came in, and I had my day timer open. And she said, "Oh, you use paper." Because she does too. And everybody tells her that she's nuts. Now, I actually even use color-coded paper. So if I love green. Green is for go, green is for money. It's like this subliminal type thing, right? So I have paper, like that's my date timer over there with stuff stacked on it. You can see the pink. Yes. I pink. There's my client list is green. Everybody that's on there. Because in the middle of a big desk covered with stuff, there are certain pieces that I want to know exactly where they're at. So if I have, my current project lists are almost always on green. So that in the middle of everything, I can find them. And she looked and she was like, oh my gosh, she felt relieved. Because the message is that everything must be digital. Does anybody ever hear that message?
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's what he said is the key. Everybody's looking for a magic bullet. There is no magic bullet. These are tools. This is why we really put this together, is because, I use Facebook. So I use Facebook. We have a social media policy in my house. I have a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old. There is nothing that goes online that we don't want or we think that anybody shouldn't see. So I teach classes on social media. I will tell you, I'm not an expert. There are no experts. There are so many platforms. Nobody can be an expert. So if somebody tells you that, they're incorrect. They may have areas of expertise. They may, we have somebody who does social media for us. And she's absolutely incredible because she understands engagement. Social media isn't about marketing. It's about a way to stay engaged. So my examples with Facebook are kind of like with my email newsletters that I used to have. And I change depending on what's happening. So when I was doing email newsletters twice a month, 3% of the people that got those newsletters would personally write me back. That's pretty significant. Most people only get 3% open rate. I had 3% of the people that would actually respond personally to me. Okay, social media for me is every morning I go on Facebook. Some days I don't, but I think, what choices am I going to make today? What's going on in my life? What could I share with the people that I know that if they happen to read this would mean something to me and would mean something to them? So my thing yesterday was kind of funny. It was about I have the Rain Queen magic, okay? Because was it dry for a couple of days? I was spoiled this summer. I didn't have to water my garden, right? And I walked in. It was really busy this last week, and I walked in yesterday morning or whatever it was, no, the day before, and I was like, oh my gosh, everything was just like looking really, it hadn't got any water like in 3 days, 4 days. I have a pepper plant, looked like it was going to die. It was really bad. So I was like, I unrolled my garden hose that had been rolled up for like several weeks, and I watered in the morning, and guess what it did? It rained. And I was like, so I have the Rain Queen magic, okay? So should I leave the garden hose out so we can get more rain, or should I roll it up so that it's bright and sunny? So then we got, so it was like this kind of funny thing, and we got, okay, roll it up for Saturday, and somebody else goes, well, if the rain keeps the cold front back, leave the, so, or I'll put something on that might have to do, so I work at being positive. I look at it a place to communicate. I never put anything out there that has to be negative or whiny or whatever. Because it's all about choices. So even if I'm being really challenged. Now, it's interesting. I know there's a girl in St. Pete. Her name is Julie Weintraub. She and her husband own the Gold and Diamond Stores. So I don't know if you've ever seen any of their commercials. So we've met a couple of times, but not really had in-depth, like, hey, we're hanging out type stuff. But we've connected through email about a couple of projects that she does. And once in a while, we interact through Facebook. I put something up, she comments on that. And so even though I haven't really had an intimate conversation, a super intimate conversation with her ever in person, and we haven't spent a lot of time together, we've actually built some kind of relationship through these little pieces. And so Facebook allows me to maintain some kind of connection. So if I haven't seen somebody in a couple of years, I may be able to say, oh gosh, I saw that thing, it was a great picture when your son graduated. There's still some sort of idea of what's going on in their life. That's what I use Facebook for. So the pieces, though, if 20 years ago they told you that every human being needed 10 human contacts every day, and they defined it 10 hugs, 10 physical interactions with somebody to be healthy, do you think that's changed? People thought that email marketing was, if we had email marketing, we could get rid of salespeople. Is that work? No. So then, because see, this is the way it works with social media and web design, okay, is Google, when you go on Google and you look for something, you're looking for an answer, right? Okay? Google makes money off of advertisers because those advertisers believe that they have an answer and you'll find them. But if you get a bunch of stupid results, you get frustrated, don't you? Okay? So what happens is Google's always trying to provide you with relevant content. Great content that's going to solve solutions. So what happens is you put great content on your website and you link it so that people can find it. And then the expert, and I know some of these. I have a friend, when he teaches on it, he's got a red hat, a white hat, and a black visor, because he's not going to wear a black hat. But he knows how to game the system. And so what happens is the people that know how to game the system come in and they change, they figure it out. They figure out how to automate it and do all these kind of things. And so now you get that junk stuff. The stuff, it's like 400 words that somebody auto-generated, and you read some of it and you go, wow, you know what I'm talking about, right? Right, and you go, how did this get up here? Because they game the system, and so what does Google do? They change the rules. Everything readjusts. If you have good content, it'll come up to the top because it's going to take them a little bit to figure out how to game the system again. The same thing happens with personal contact. I would say you absolutely need to be on LinkedIn. Anybody who's not on LinkedIn, you need to put yourself up there, and you need to have a website. Because in today's world, people will look to see if you have a website, and if you don't have a website, they will not consider, because it's so inexpensive to do a website, at minimal, even if it's just a brochure site, people will look for a website to do business with you, won't they? Have you ever gone to look for something and you're like, they don't even have a website? How do you feel? You go, they're not even real. Is that true?
Yeah.
So as professionals, LinkedIn, you need to be on LinkedIn, because if you are looking for a position, okay, so you don't have to be a social media expert, but if you are on LinkedIn, that is your resume. That is your resume. And now people look for two things. They look for you, do you have a website, and are you on LinkedIn? And if you're a professional, they look for you in that way. So, but those things all being said, ultimately it comes down to relationship. You know, and although we're all over the place with the stuff we do with Bar Camp on social media, the reason we've been successful is because we go and meet people. We walk in and we shake hands and we have interactions. And that's part of what gives us the ability to do that. That's how we provide value. Because people are tired of being a number, being just an email on a list. And so what you said was some of the most relevant pieces there, because as you look at these tools that you're bombarded with and you look at these messages, okay, you only have so much time, so much energy, so much attention. You're having to struggle with, do I get paid by the hour? How do I create more value? Trying to solve all these problems and do everything that everybody tells me to do and have the best results, optimize cash flow, have some flexibility, and how do I use this to build a team? And team is absolutely crucial if you're going to move from a job to business. So our next assignment, okay, is we're going to talk about an exit. Regardless of whether you wanted to build a business and 3 to 5 years get out, or build a company that you're going to stay with for 20 or 30 years, eventually, you know, they say that there's only 2 things that you can't escape, and that's death and taxes. Eventually, in one way or another, we will all leave. Okay. What I want to talk to you about is, what is the exit strategy for your business? Are you going to be like my client who 13 years into this is like, oh, I just don't know what to do? Are you going to be like the family business that works 20 to 30 years and they build up this wonderful thing thinking that their kid is going to take it over? Yeah, Tom's going like this. Right. You know what? It doesn't always work like that. I don't want to do that, Dad. I want to have my own life. Or you work really hard and you're like, well, somebody will want to buy it. But you never really make any provision for that. You know how sad that is to see somebody that produces, that's like somebody who has a house that's all paid for and they simply walk away. So what I'm going to encourage you, we're going to talk about now, is at the end, whatever that looks like, or I should say, at the end, whenever you want that to come, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 20 years, what do you want it to look like? Do you want to sell your business? Do you expect somebody to take it over? There's a company in Bradenton, actually, LaPency Plumbing. Has anybody heard of them? Yeah. They're, what I love is the transition from the father and mother who founded it to the children and how they walk through that. I got to know them from the Longboat Key Chamber, and I actually got to meet with them as they were moving from one piece to the next, where the father was stepping back and the son, Greg, was moving into a leadership role. It's a brilliant story of a family who really talked about it and really was working on it. Now, I haven't talked to them like in the last 2 years to see where they are on it, but right in the middle there, I have to tell you that I was brilliantly amazed at where they were at. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, how do you want it to look? And maybe you're in a job right now. Is this where you want it to be? Or if you're going to start a business, and it could be anything you wanted it to be, what will it look like? Will you sell it? Will you go off and live into the sunset? I have a client who, when this person sells their business, okay, and we've been putting the pieces in place. Now, most people in their industry would only have one location. They wouldn't have several locations. They wouldn't think about how to license what they're doing. They wouldn't prepare diligently for an exit strategy. It's pretty incredible. In this person's industry, for the size of what their business was and how they started, they're going to have opportunities afterwards that are very, very different. So wherever you're at now, whatever vehicle you choose to get there, what do you want it to look like when you leave? Because it can be anything you want. So at your table, take a few minutes and talk about, what do you want the transition to look like? I am really particular about making sure that you are out on time to go put into action the wonderful things that you've learned today. So when we talk about an end or an exit, now I understand that as they were talking in this group, they found out that somebody had a side business and they started passing around cards. Okay, so if you would like to be in on the know, before you leave, make sure you stop by and say, who has a card that we don't know about? But in this group over here, what did you guys come up with, this end exit? Did you guys come up with something you went, aha?
Well, it's interesting because Jamie's kind of in her exit plan. Mm-hmm. She's kind of living hers now. She came from the corporate world, and so she's an independent contractor, and she sells businesses.
So she helps up. Cool. So this is a conversation you have with people all the time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how many times do you have people that they want to sell their business, but they really didn't prepare to sell their business?
Oh God. All the time. You got to plan 3 years in advance. You got to have taxes. You got to not be taking the cash out and then saying, but my, business is valued at $100,000 more because I take all this cash. It's like, but you can't have it both ways.
Right. You know what's really exciting that you said? So she's just talking when Jamie's talking about selling your business and prepare 3 years ahead. She's just talking about the financials. She's not talking about infrastructure and some of those other things, which I'll tie into our wrap up for your preparation for next week. So yeah, that's so Jamie's working in her exit strategy, but I bet that Jamie, because she buys and sells businesses, has probably thought about what's your exit strategy from this part of your life, or are you going to buy and sell businesses for the rest of your life, or are you going to do some other things?
It was fate that they sat together this morning.
It was vision for somebody who said, we want to build a collaborative culture and provide more value. Because although you pass one another outside or in your locations, when do you actually have the opportunity to do this? And did you know that there was somebody who buys and sells businesses who comes from a corporate background and really understands how to do that right here? You better be careful. We might ask you to come and do a session on that.
She has a fantastic corporate background.
See, because your solutions very often are right around us, but if we don't have the eyes to see that, somebody, at the end, I'm going to leave you with a quote, and it's from a gentleman who's blind, and he talks about that sometimes sight limits us from vision. Sight and vision, two very different things. Sight is what I actually see through my eyes. Vision is something that is bigger, that is not limited to just what I see. So what I love about what Bernie shared is this part here, because whether you're as an entrepreneur, it all comes down to who you are as an individual. We all have a limited amount of time, a limited amount of energy and attention. And Bernie has spent a significant amount of time, energy, and attention on building this thing called ComCenters. And now he's been looking at it and saying, how do I leverage what I built to create greater value for my clients? So I would encourage you to invite somebody to come to one of the sessions who is meeting at Starbucks. Not that we don't like going to Starbucks. I can't personally work in one. I know so many people that they come up and they talk to me, and that's great. But if I'm actually trying to work, en route, it's much easier to just stop in here or at Lakewood Ranch. Invite somebody to come who will meet somebody like a Jamie or like a Roberto or a Tom or like anybody else in here. Invite somebody to come and connect and learn something. But Bernie's identified that he has different seasons in his life, and he's looking forward to a season where it's not like he's looking to quit and golf and fish. I work with a lot of investors, and they come to me, and there was some conversation over there about people transitioning, starting new businesses, because there's not enough golfing and fishing to let them feel fulfilled. So they may not want to work 40, 60, 80 hours a week, but they want to do something where they can utilize their time, where they can make a difference, and where they can provide value. And so Bernie's taking what he's built over the last 13 years and helping you get more value. Because it's not just about the coaches that stand up here. It's about what you guys bring. And some of these conversations we'll say, oh, well, Jamie, I want you to come share. Roberto, I want you to come share. And if you do, we want to make sure that when you share, and then let people interact. A couple of things that I wanted to mention is this thing called Book of Business. Okay, that is how much revenue your company is producing. Okay, so that's one thing that you're building up, is how much revenue. But the other piece over there is this thing, infrastructure. What supports that book of business? And then this other thing called window of opportunity. Some businesses are not meant to last. You know, there's a great story about companies that provided ice. And there were a number of companies that said, oh, it's never going to change. Well, there was one called Frigid Air that took and went from that place to creating these appliances which are still on the market today, where some of their competitors years and years ago, nobody was buying Black's ice. So there's windows of opportunities for some businesses. I want to give you two things here, and you have the sheet that you have has a bunch of questions on there. I'm the question queen. I believe that if you ask better questions, you'll get better answers. So the two things that I want to leave you with for you to think about, and next week Richard Randolph will be here, and he's going to be talking about goals and implementation. So I want you to think about these things so you're prepared for Richard, because next week he's going to talk to you about taking the things and transferring your business into the next whatever it is, based on what you want it to be, and actually making that work. RSST. Is your business, whatever you do, repeatable? So when you make a sale, can you do it again? Is it sustainable? Can you keep doing that? So can you make a sale again? So you made one sale, made one sale, made one sale. And can you continue to do that? Is it scalable? Can it grow? And then what would it take to transfer it to somebody else? Somebody else, something else. And then the gentleman who was blind, whose book that I just read this last week, he has a statement. And he said, your life can change if you just ask yourself this one question. If I were amazing, what would I do right now? So I challenge you, as you go into today, and as you prepare for what Richard's going to do this next week, if you were amazing, what would you do? Thank you very much for coming. James is going to close our session out. I hope you got some great value, and we look forward to seeing you next week.